And we are live. Welcome to the show, everyone. It is another fabulous Tuesday, as always, taking over your Tuesday night here at VodPod Media. And we're live in the studio. So go ahead, get them links live, share, comment, like. Make sure you're giving us a shout out, telling us where you're dropping in from. Tuesday night, as always, big shout out to Gylan Jackson, my man. We are 54 weeks in to the show here at VodPod Media. Some believed it would never happen, but we're building the dream from scratch. So thank you so much for sticking with us, folks, for checking us out. We hope you checked out last week as well, our special couples edition. And we're just going to keep on attacking, keep on getting after it here with our guest, Dr. Rudyard Hilliard. Do you go by Lance?
I go by Ruddy.
You go by Ruddy. Okay,
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure because I heard we was at the smoothie shop the other day, and I think you told him you said Lance or something to write on the thing.
It's a funny story, man. You know, the funny Rudyard is such a unique name, so I say Rudyard, and it's like what? Okay, cool. Ruddy's my usual name, and I say Ruddy, and that takes you long too. So Lance is the easy, whitewashed, easy way to say it. Boom, it's Americanized. Everyone knows Lance.
Well, that's all good too. That's all good too. But we want to make sure that we're calling us our real true names and the names we prefer and pronouns and all of those things. So big shout out to everyone checking us in here tonight. And big shout out to you for joining us. You and I have been talking about getting you at the table for a long time. So I appreciate you making it out. You got a lot of things going on in your life, man. So I just appreciate you coming in here and kicking it with us tonight.
Man, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. This is an opportunity and a blessing to be here. I've watched you from helping out the kids with our nonprofit from back in the day, and your energy and vibe was always just enticing and empowering. Seeing you do this is something that I've been following you and I've been supporting you, and I love seeing you here. And I feel honored to even be here at the table with, Maximo.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, man. And as they say, steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron. So let's get right into it. I mean, you talk about giving back in the community. You talk about, serving. Let's talk about a little bit about the importance of, your vision and your idea of service. You know what I mean? And being a leader and being out there and giving back and working with together. I talked to you about before the cameras came on that this is like a dance. Nobody gets where they're going alone. Everyone is helping everyone get home at night. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so let's talk a little bit about your idea of mentorship and service.
All right. So a funny thing happened back in 2014. We had two losses, and my best friend, my family, my father passed away. Dr. Robert Hilliard, who was huge in the community, hit me hard. And then a month later, one of the Dr. Burns, Mike and John Burns, one of their grandparents passed away. We're sitting down at a table after the funeral, just talking about how all our mentors were passing away, all the giants in the Black community had passed. And for us, it was well, who's filling the gap, right? There are all these guys who are going, who left to lead us? And that night we came up with this idea that it has to be us, right? We're coming up, we're in our 20s, 30s, getting in our 40s, and we have to kind of be the people to stand up, because who else is going to do it, right? The same mentality they had in that age, in their era of picking folks up, about supporting, about bringing people in, is something we aspire to do to this day. We started from there a nonprofit called Icon Talks. The idea was to get people in the community, talk to kids, to middle schoolers, elementary kids, and teach them about different opportunities. There is something I call, which is the box theory, and for me, it's that everyone is in a box. So you think about your options based on what you see. If all you see is crime, poverty, people working at gas stations and grocery stores, they made traditionally lower income jobs. Yeah. That's your aspiration, right? If you're dealing with folks who are dealing with buying yachts and dealing with planes, you're going to think that's possible and do that. So our idea is to try to get kids to have a different mentality and a larger picture of what's possible. And our idea for this nonprofit and this mentoring program at MLK Academy was to expose kids to people who are at higher levels and supposedly different jobs that have higher profile, to give them to say, I can do that. Yeah, I can be a senator. I can be a city councilman, doctor, a lawyer. We've had a ton of folks come through, and for MLK, we've had ex-NFL players. Isaiah Thomas came by to talk one day. We've had ex-NFL players. We've had a ton of folks just across the spectrum. And it was dope because when Dr. Hilliard says study, okay, cool, 5 guys will do the homework, right? You're bringing LeBron James, all of a sudden everyone's doing homework, right? Because he's such a big figure. And from this first idea of what we're doing, our impact was good. But if we had Jay-Z said tell the kids to do homework. They do it even more.
Yeah.
And so from that was born Icon Talks, which was kind of the next kind of the bigger platform for us. And that was basically getting celebrities, entertainers, icons together to talk about their journey and to share what they're doing in the community. These guys who give back, who aren't celebrated for what they do. And the idea was to get them and have kids at each one of their events, invite the general public also. The general public is much more interested to have them help it, support it, but also bring the kids in always every event to see that, have time to mentor and actually be inspired in a way that no one else can be. You know, if I had those guys talk to me, who knows what it would have been.
Yeah, and listen, you're successful if by all means, right? When we talk about the nonprofit, but during the day, you masquerade as a physician in the emergency room, right? You've been a medical physician in one of the largest practices in the San Antonio area, correct? I mean, you know, you're saving lives, you're helping people on a day-to-day basis, you know, in the emergency room, in the doctor's office, and at night through the nonprofit and whatnot, and in all the other, you know, spectrums you talked about, servicing and mentoring, you know, giving back with the nonprofit, touching students. You know, it's more than admirable. It's extremely important work. You mentioned many of the people in our communities need this sort of encouragement. You know, we grew up in communities that didn't have necessarily all the resources, all the tools, all of the mentors who had that generational wealth, right, to pass on. So, I mean, that's extremely important and by every stretch. So, you know, talk to me a little bit about your motivation, man. You know, how did you get to this point? You know, you had a story that led up to this point to have that discipline to get through, you know, school, you know, to maintain and, you know, do all of these other things you're doing. You mentioned today you're closing on a house. Congratulations, right? Yeah. These are goals that many people strive for, you know?
You know, I was blessed to have the mentorship also, right? You know, and for me, my father, Dr. Robert L.M. Hilliard, was like a huge, huge inspiration to me. Growing up, I didn't know he was that big until he's my dad, but like he was someone who was a doctor also, did OB-GYN, but he was the first doctor to integrate every hospital here doing surgery. He was the first black doctor, one of the first 5 to come through a Texas med school, right, to graduate, and he dealt with like segregation and dealt with like all kinds of issues, and just basically broke the door down. And so for him, the answer was always, I can do it. No one can stop you. You know, he was always inspiring. And seeing his impact in the world, like I remember being a kid and seeing him go to the L&D and seeing him, the moms, you know, and seeing the nurses who loved on me, and I was there, and we'd be at restaurants, and he couldn't get through dinner without being stopped by somebody and giving a hug, you know, and the love that the community had for him was just inspiring. It was just a warming. They loved my dad because he loved them. He gave his time, he gave his effort, you know, he took care of the poor. A lot of times folks who had no money, he would just do it, you know, what's right. And I think that kind of work to me spoke to me because that work is what matters, right? Money doesn't matter, profile doesn't matter, cars, but what matters more is what you do and how you touch people. That's what he did, and so that was my goal. Medicine was always kind of cool for me because it was what he did and what you just do. And I mean, we have like 5 doctors. I mean, we're all doctors, so that's like the family business, and so we did that because that's what the path we followed was. But even then, too, like there's bigger and better and more impactful, and there's huge platforms and huge ways to make a bigger impact. And for me, my idea now is breaking the box again. You know, my goal is to break the box, into the bigger box, do more things to make a bigger impact. And this is a great opportunity for that. So thank you.
Yeah, and so listen, you're welcome anytime. You know, anytime you need to come through to the studio, we're more than appreciative and just grateful to have you on. You've always been a big supporter of the work we're doing here. One of the last talks that we had with Mr. Uchenaya Agba, you came in and talked about the vaccine for COVID-19, right? Now, we're not entirely out of this COVID thing, right? I mean, it's here. It's really not going anywhere. We talked about the skepticism around the vaccine in communities of color. I mean, it's one of those things, right? It's still a controversial topic. Some people are anti-vaccine, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They just don't want to take the vaccine. They don't really want to hear about it. Others are all on board for it. Give us your thoughts. I want to talk a little bit about a lot of things, but since, you know, health, you talked about giving back to the community. What better gift can we give than health? And COVID is one of those things that people are still catching COVID. It's, you know, people have long haul COVID, right? There were other strands of this thing still, you know, mutating. You know, where are we at in the big picture of this thing?
It's insane. So good news is it's better than it was. Like the herd immunity we've gotten has been impactful. I'm seeing it a lot less. At the peak, it was horrible. We went from one place I work, they saw maybe 30 a day normally, and we're seeing 100 a day every day with people who had COVID or symptoms. And it was very scary at the time. I think now it's gotten a lot better. People who are getting it seem to be getting less sick. I haven't seen anyone who I've seen in the past, 3 months end up being in the hospital that sick. But we have folks who passed, unfortunately, who were that sick when it first came. The vaccine has been a huge part of that, and I've seen and I have a lot of good friends who are conspiracy theorists on that. I understand their concerns because the government says do it. Well, wait a minute, they also told us gave us syphilis and stuff. There's things that have happened that cause concern. But I think when you look at the whole, we have to be able to evolve. And this is funny. I read this book called "The Surviving the Next Pandemic," and it was this idea that there's other pandemics coming out, other things that are worse than COVID that could come out and infect us. And so when you have these bacteria and these viruses that mutate fast, when you have a defense, they all change to adapt. We as humans can't adapt fast enough. They can't create anti-vaccines and antibiotics fast enough to treat these things. So a defense mechanism we have is to change our behavior, right? And so if you get this by eating chicken, don't eat chicken, we're cool, right? If you get this by washing hands, you're not washing hands, wash your hands, you can stop it. And we have to really be better as a community about understanding how we can all help each other. Because if you don't care about getting COVID, but you got it, you cough and give someone else has it, and you're young and healthy. I've got a friend who's a super bad, big anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, and he's in great shape, works out, and he may not get it or get sick by it or get hurt, but if he gives my grandma the illness, she may die, right? And that's something that's on your conscience, and it was a hot button issue for a long time, and I think right now it's a lot better, and I think we have survived as a community. The question is, how do we move forward, right? How do we get stronger and get better? Because the next one may come, and when that does come, we have to be ready. And I think now there's trauma. Right? Folks don't want to do what we're told, right? And don't. So now, like you may have less chance people who are going to do what needs to be done because hey, screw it, COVID.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but I think we've done really well so far.
So give me also, because again, we talk about service, we talk about community, we talk about giving back. Many of our people, and when I say our people, I'm talking communities of color. I'm talking about communities that have lived in poverty, have not trusted doctors, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they don't want to go to the doctors. If I go to the doctor, they're going to find something. They're going to keep me here. I might not ever come out. I've heard those stories all the time, right? For some of our elders and people that just don't want to go. They'd much rather stay at home and get some home remedy, things of that nature. And there's different approaches, right? You and I have talked about.
I get it, man.
Yeah. different types of treatment. For different illnesses and diseases, whatever it may be. What are some general tips we can give to, let's say, men? Men of color, you're in your 40s. You might not, always want to go to the doctor. What's some general advice we can give that pocket of men?
First of all, listen to your wife, right? This is my honey out there. Like when most of the time I see men who have issues, concerns, problems, and they hear it happening, the body tells them they have symptoms, but a lot of times they don't want to be sick, right? Even me as a man sometimes don't want to be sick, and I'm okay, right? Which is the wrong thing to do. When you're sick. A lot of times they'll confide in their about this thing happening about my chest pain, and usually the wives drag the husbands in to be seen. But as a man, the first thing is listen to your body. Understand that toward 50, the risks get higher and higher for the big thing right now is cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke, cancer. Those things happen as you get older. There's screenings that are important, as you're a man towards your 40s. Prostate's really important for men, especially men of color. Things like colonoscopies, also colon cancer is big. Excuse me. And these things aren't easily found without invasive tools, and so no one's going to volunteer to have someone do a rectal exam on them, right? But because you'll never find out unless you get that test done, right, or get labs drawn. And a lot of folks are coming in later because they're scared. They don't want to have that stuff happen. And when they come in, it's beyond cure, And so we're leading in every aspect, unfortunately, in the Black community and brown communities with all these diseases, cancer, stroke, heart attack, because we get care later. It's cost too much a lot of times, and we can't get access to it. The wait times are longer now, right? And so you don't have the same, if I can afford it, I'll go to somebody, I'll pay, I'll get seen. If I don't have insurance, I'm going to wait. Do I eat now, right? Or do I go to the doctor? What if it's not that bad? What's more important? You know, so the mentality a lot of times I've seen folks who made these huge sacrifices. I don't want to go in because I don't want to, you know, we have to eat, you know, well, dude, it's not, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about that. You know, this is more important. And I tell folks, what if you're not here to pay the bill later on? Be here, pay what you can, but get taken care of, you know, your family needs you. And so I think as men, it's important just to be aware of yourself, be open, talk to people, you know, get help when you can, and just ask somebody, you know. And now we have Google now, and you can Google stuff up and see stuff, and that's not always the best friend for us, but you know, but it's a resource.
Yeah, it's something. You know, and that's the other thing too. You and I have talked about capitalism. We talked about the role of money in today's society. About, you know, it's unfortunate that some people have to choose between eating that night and being healthy, surviving. Yeah. You know, the state of the state with money in this country, man, is another sad story because everything costs. Everything costs. Everything, you know, insane, it's just the role, it's just the reality of the country we live in, and it's likely like that everywhere you go.
Yeah, you know, it's a scary paradigm. Like, you know, wherever you are, you're gonna work to get where you want to get, you know, and have opportunity come to you, whether you're lucky or not, or blessed or fortunate, or had a bad lot in life. You're gonna work to acquire some kind of wealth, some kind of thing that's yours, your piece of the dream, right? And it seems like there's this fear, and I have it myself too. No matter how well you do, that one illness you get, you're in the hospital, is going to cost you X amount. You're going to be bankrupt after a whole life of saving. How do you pass to your kids? Those are real fears, you know, and I guess that's why health is important. Taking care of yourself early is important, right? Eating right, living right. Even, you know, even for me, there's so many ways to prevent illness that we don't really talk about, right? Mm-hmm. And there's issues like access to food deserts we have in our community that are also really important. But the cost is there. But there are ways to benefit. Not every insurance company, is your friend, you know, right? A lot of times your companies will help you, but you're paying a lot. So look at your plans, find out which one is going to give you the most. A lot of times people expect doctors to get paid a whole lot. Sometimes we don't get paid very well by insurance companies. You're paying a premium of whatever, $1,000, whatever a month for your family, $1,000 a month for your family, and we'll charge 100 and get like 50, right? You know, and for one visit, and they keep like 900 of it, you know, and they make you pay 25 of that 50. So they're getting all the money, you're paying half it, you know, and they're getting money stacked up. And sometimes they're denying folks, you know, which is what Obamacare changed, is they stopped that pre-existing condition clause where if you had cancer before, you would be covered because they may come back. So they stopped some of those practices. But you know, really, it's getting a good agent to talk to you, and just really doing your best you can. But there's no quick answer, and I wish there was.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that with a lot of things. I mean, you know, the damages to homes, right? We talked about, you know, we had some freezes in San Antonio. People had their pipes burst, right? We're experiencing all the effects of climate change all throughout the country. We are lucky enough to have a broad base of viewers from all over Philly, you know, Arizona, Michigan, people tuning in, and everyone's dealing with weather issues where they're at, right? So you have damages to your home. There's a bill, right, that costs thousands of dollars, right? You talked about that. I mean, it's very easy for our communities to slide into debt, you know, student loans. You know, you have to purchase a vehicle, right? I mean, just immediately you're going into debt, passing this debt on. I mean, it's something that our country is just like, here you go.
Yeah. And it's really kind of, it's scary to see, and I've kind of watched it happen. And I've been very aware of what's happening in the world of, you know, fantasy. But I've noticed, like, you may go and you eat out, and, you know, it used to be like if McDonald's, whatever, it was like $5. Now it's like $8, you know, and these things are slowly creeping up. And so, like, there are folks I know very well who have all the trappings of wealth, but are just living paycheck to paycheck, right? Yeah. And there are folks, you know, and there are months that even me, I got to figure out what I got to pay for, what I'm not going to, because it's getting tight, or anybody. But imagine like the guy who's working minimum wage or working that job and just getting by where there's no, you know, like a flat tire can knock you out, right? You know, when these things increase, when the economy changes, people are getting trapped in this cycle of like impoverishment, and that bothers me a lot, you know. And I think that we need to be aware of it as a community and work together more to get out of that place, because I fear that we're in a place where you'll be trapped in this area where you can't get out, right? You know, they say education is a way, but people can't afford to get to school anymore. There's these huge debts and loans you may never pay back. So it's important now, especially right now, as the economy inflation is getting worse, to really be open about trying new things, about building, talking, collaborating, getting together with groups and finding ways to increase wealth and do what you do well, right? This podcast is a great example of ingenuity and about taking your skills and your gifts and going out there, right? I know for you it wasn't easy to go out and do this, and people probably hit on you for doing it. But you said, I'm doing this. I'm doing it first. You're crafting, getting your craft better.
Mm-hmm.
But as you fall into your gift, you're helping people like me get the word out. Other guests who are now spreading their words. So you're helping the community by just doing what you do and using your gift. And God's going to bless you and give you this huge platform. It's going to grow. I see it already happening.
Yeah, we're trying. The other thing is we're connecting people with resources. We've had financial planners, wellness experts.
Yeah.
We've had people like yourself. And so what we're doing is building a larger and broader community of connections because, as I mentioned, hey, if you're into health and wellness, people are saying, hey, it's about time for me to get a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, we got one right here. And if it's not him, he's got a recommendation, right? Or hey, my grandparent is having a surgery coming up. Is there anyone we could connect him with in this field to provide some alternative advice, right? Or hey, I need a mental health practitioner because we talked about health and wellness. I mean, let's be honest, most of our brothers, could use mental health services of some kind. Yeah. We're not rushing to get it, but that's something that we're looking to destigmatize in many of our communities because the mental issues that we have are sometimes, much worse than physical or financial or, however you want to put it.
Yeah. And it's important too to make sure I think our worst enemy is fear. And we don't want to talk. We want to be, strong. Especially as men, we're strong. We want to carry the burden on our own. But a lot of times, the best way to move forward is collaboration. I've been blessed to have if you look at what I've done, I've been touching a lot of really great projects and people and things, and I've been in the great places because I have great friends and people who I contacts, right? It's seeing that and bringing people together is also something that's important too. So even if you don't have the best voice, if you're in music, you're the best, athletic skill, if you're an athlete, you may know folks, people trust you. Using that skill to bring people together, build communities is also important, right? And build projects, people create wealth just by doing it, and they have ideas. And even in the studio, there's tons of different levels of success, but also a lot of it starts by just that first step, and that's the hardest step to make is when people are saying, you can't do it. The voice inside you says, I can't do it. I'm going to fail. You say, no, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
There's a formula that with doing the nonprofit was kind of, in Icon Talks was this great experience for us. We were able to create this company called Icon Talks now that has had senators and athletes, entertainers. We've hobnobbed and rubbed shoulders with a lot of the community is great. And it started off with people saying no to us, right? So there's this formula that it's see it, speak it, do it, right? And so, or dream it, right? See it in your mind, then speak it and say, I'm going to do this, then do the work. And that works for us just to get there, and you start talking about your idea, your dream, push out there, be your own advocate.
Yeah, the power of manifestation. And so you're speaking on a lot of good things. Folks, what are we doing out here, right? How are you carving your own path in this world? How are you making a dent in society to create real sustainable change? How are we uplifting one another? You talked about, speaking to youth. I had the opportunity to come through with your organization and speak to youth in San Antonio. And I remember they were a tough crowd. We had a tough crowd, right? Because sometimes you walk into these places, right? And you got these young kids like, who is this guy? Who is this guy here trying to spit at me, right?
Yeah.
You got to get some credibility. You got to get some spit some knowledge at these young folks to get their attention, But that's all part of the process, right? And so uplifting each other, collaborations is huge. We've talked about some of the mutual friends that we have within the studios community here. We've got a lot of great things happening at VodPod, and we want to continue to do this work, so whether it's through these live streams, whether it's through special events, we want to continue to do them. We want everyone to come in and be a part of them. Do you have any other projects? I know you and I have chatted about a few. Do you have any others that you want to let out of the bag right now, since we're talking about the power of manifestation?
Oh man, one thing that kind of turned in, it was a nice surprise for me was the music game, right? I've been someone who's been a fan of music from growing up. My dad listened to the OJs and, like the Four Tops, and this music has been always part of my life. Even my daughter is a musician, and I ended up having a business partner who is a member of a group called Mojoe, and his Trey Love Supreme is his artist name. And he actually, asked me to help them with their next project and get involved in the studio, and they've gotten back in the game. And this group is outstanding. They were signed by Matthew Knowles' group back in the like 90s, like 95, 97, and had an album out, did well. We're growing up and had their second album come out, and we're doing very well. Then 50 Cent in the Club came out and kind of killed the game. Everything changed to that
sound
genre, yeah. And so they kind of walked away. Charles has been still doing music. Trey kind of worked on his entrepreneurial skills. And recently, during the COVID crisis, it came back to him, right? And for him, he feels it's this God-given, like manifestation of a gift. And so it started coming back to him, and he was playing this music, and I was like, man, this is beautiful, man. This is amazing. And so they got back together as a group, and they've started making music now. And they've done, they've got the first project's out now. It's called Soul Prophets Volume 1. And their message is, it's threaded throughout the music. It's basically, number one, it is artist empowerment. It is as an artist, owning your music, controlling your masters, and creating this music, but having your own control of your own destiny, right? Which is self-ownership, self-awareness. The second one is also trying to bring back good vibes to music. You know, that's important. Everyone, involved in the company. Jasper Moon Productions is our group name, or the company name that produces the music. And the whole vibe is to try to make sure that you bring back the positive narratives to music that aren't there anymore, right? You know, there's been a push that's been away from love, empowerment, to more violence, drugs, money,
guns.
Misogyny, guns, all that stuff, which has its place, but shouldn't always be the main place, because as we grow in music, as we grow in life, other things take precedence, right? And if you're young, that's kind of cool, right? But eventually we all kind of grow up a little bit and get into different phases. Being a parent, being a father, being a lover, there are many us's, right? And so if we can share other parts of us as community, we can more move towards that. Some of the music is it's about a vibe, and it's like, there's a song called Let's Go Get It, which is about like going out and getting your dreams. It's about like you and your girl and you guys, just talking to her about let's go reach our dreams. Let's go do it. There's a lot of powerful stuff in what they're doing, and they have actually a couple of projects already in the works. There's 2 projects in the third one, which is the main album coming out. But me as being like a fan of music, I heard it, saw it, and said, I want to be part of it. Let me help you. And I've been in the studio with them, and just vibing out and helping to support. And this with some of the, just watching them do their art has been a blessing to me, and it's been it's been kind of a refreshing thing. After COVID, a lot of us were beat up. I was, just done, and it was a way for me to just experience something different, a different vibe and vibration that to me helped manifest my return to activity and in the road of optimism, because it got really bad for a while for a lot of doctors, myself too.
So let me just take a pause real quick. Can I say you are a wonderful communicator?
Oh, thanks, man.
You know what I'm saying? Because I do this a lot, right? We do this every week, and we have different people come in and their mic skills, right? And we mentioned, I gotta share a story. This doc, to me, this educated, handsome brother told us a little earlier that he might get a little camera shy. Bro. And you are doing wonderful, man. You are slaying the mic right now, dude. Man, you're just well spoken, man.
Oh man, dude, I get so camera shy. It's nuts, man. Funny story, right? So I was like 8 years old, and I have a twin sister named Robbie, and her and I were doing this talent show for St. Paul Church back in the day, the old black church, right? And so we're there, and I had little curly hair and had the moves down, and I was a Michael Jackson clone, man. I could dance, bro. Billie Jean, all that stuff. Yeah. Right? I had it. And so my chance to go whatever and perform was there, and before the show, I got scared, got cold feet, Dad. And, my mom says, come here, and she spanked me. So I go out there crying, right? Like, my ass get beat. And I just froze up, right? And from there, I was like, man, my sister gave and just killed it, and got all the praise, man. From there, that time, man, sometimes the camera hasn't been my best friend. Yeah. But to me, it's more about the message. And when the message is right, it doesn't matter, man. You want to make sure that you speak what needs to be spoken. Yeah. And this is a great place to speak the message that needs to be spoken.
Well, communication is a skill. It's something that you have and something that you own, man. So I just want to, give you another respect, another nod. Listen, what we've built here is from the ground up, and we have all sorts of people in from the community. Some people have mastered that skill of communication and being articulate and really voicing, what they really want to communicate in life, right? It's not always easy to do. Talk to me a little bit about how music has been therapeutic after COVID, because I heard you speaking again to
Yeah.
get back to the topic of
Yeah.
music and music creation, you know, music to uplift. We were playing some jams earlier, and you know, the beat started hitting. It was that soul vibe, and I'm like, man, who is it? I told Ghana, who's this? And it was Mojoe.
Yeah.
It was track number 3 or 4
Yeah.
on that album, and I was like, okay, this is good. This feels good. Some of that vibing music. Something you get in the car, you just you roll, and you know, that's music that we came up, and I feel like we're from the same kind of era of having that feel good music.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a time and a place for gangster rap and all that other stuff as well.
Yeah, be hard. Yeah. So I love all music, right? Shout out to every artist doing their thing, right? So no hate at all. You know, starting out from COVID, man, at least personally for me, we were just getting beat up, you know, and see patients who were getting sick, having to fight the fight about vaccines and medication, you know, and then to see folks just overwhelmingly, you know, for us, it was double, triple the numbers that we normally saw, and you're just getting overwhelmed and no breaks. It was rough. And a lot of folks a lot of doctors had a hard time. You're also worried about like things like bringing it home to your family, you know, having to be there, and what's more important. A lot of docs left, you know, they were like, hey, I'm old enough, I'm good, you know. But for us, it's like I got to feed my family first. By being here, I got to make sure they don't get sick. And so my wife does pediatrics. So we were going home, you know, we got the garage, check our clothes off, like hose down, then go inside, then shower. It was a whole routine, not to get anyone sick, you know. And you know, that was heavy on us. And for me, afterwards, I was just beat up and worn out, and you got questions about what am I supposed to, is this where I'm supposed to be, right? It's have I done enough, right? And this project with Trey, the music was a way for me to at least kind of dream again, right? You know, and the vibes are really good. The music, there's a vibration, I think, in everything, right? If you're going to go to particle physics, everything is a waveform, and so there's a thought process out there that everything has to do with vibration. And the right frequency can affect and change the mood, right? You know, you have, if it's that dark do music, that can like change your vibe and give you the feeling of fear, right? There's music out there that can give you the feeling of love or empowerment or invincibility or hope. And I think music is a way to do that. The music these guys do is just that vibe. I just feel good, happy community, us. There's a sense of like, let's bring it back, you know. And Trey and Charles, they coined this frame, or they've brought this frame called future nostalgia, right? Futuristic nostalgia, which means you're doing the new music, but bringing back that feeling you had as a kid, right? You know, that any song you think about, like that you people love, like I mean, there's so many, like Joy and Pain, or like We Are One by Frankie Beverly. Some of these songs, you just hear it and you just know that's the song, you know, whatever it is, you know. And every community has that song that they get there and, oh, shoot, the dance floor clears, you know, goes. And that kind of music that pulls the crowd in, that vibe can be like magnetic and powerful, you know, and doing the right kind of music, the right kind of vibe can bring that back to community, right? The message now has been about drugs. It's been about like fighting. You see the manifestations, right? You see young guys now get killed. You see King Von and Triple X Attention and a bunch of folks who are now Nipsey Hussle, great artists, great people who had families, who had a lot of potential, lost because they got caught up in this cycle. And the messaging, I think, is part of that. You know, unfortunately, the messaging can help to beget violence, you know, inadvertently, and also sometimes as a byproduct, right? We know Biggie, Tupac was our two losses for our generation, and they got involved in this beef, and pretty soon people got shot and killed. You know, and we lost our poets, you know, for a generation, right? You know, and we're doing it again. So if the music changes back to more positive, what can we do if we're all building? Right? We're still coming up. We're still achieving. We still have presidents of color. We still had vice presidents. We still had massive moves in society against a foe that has, or a force that has been fighting that all the way, right? There's been pushback. So we, as a community of color, of any color, right? You know, right? And folks who were about diversity and inclusion have had to fight to break into this idea of the American dream, right? And I think that music is a part of releasing that potential and that sense of community and helping us to be together, right? I think there's a narrative that sets me against you, right?
Yeah.
If I am a Christian and you're gay, we can't be friends. Well, dude, come on, why not?
Yeah.
We have more in common than we have apart, right? Obama's message was about inclusion and about more like similarities. But politics and the narrative now in the world is me versus you, right? You're black, I'm brown. I'm black, you're brown, right? You know, or you're black, I'm white, or you're Islamic and I'm Christian, right? And those things are things that help us, but they don't define us and who we are. We have the same background, the same wants for hope, for feed, for a family, the same dreams. And so like those things should unite us. And if we can find a way to change the focus back to those things, we can do a lot as a society, right? Mm-hmm. I think there is this, I don't know. I mean, I think this is my thoughts. There may be like a rich versus poor narrative, right? That's there. And it's not rich because we think it's rich and rich. There's ultra rich. You're a billionaire. Those guys who have control. We're fighting over crumbs as a society, right? We're fighting over little crumbs. Folks have enough for 100 years of family, right? You know, and we're fighting each other for this stuff because they don't want us to look at them, right? You know, and it's this, you know, I think this massive, impactful, like intentional narrative to change us, you know, to keep us on these things that are important, right? You know,
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on a lot of good things right now. I mean, you know, it's inspiring. A lot of people tell me, well, they ask me, hey, what's your podcast about? I heard you have a talk show. I heard you have a podcast. What's it about? Well, it's not about one thing, but one of the themes that we have is inspiration. And hearing inspirational people talk about inspirational ideas, you know, one of the themes that we have, no matter who the guest is having real people come in, tell real stories that can lead to real change and real changed outcomes. You know, everybody out there I know is working on something. Everyone's dealing with something, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps this is the podcast, this is the media that someone's watching right now that helps them think, hey, maybe it's time I make a change. Maybe it's time I give back. Maybe it's time I do something different. Yeah. If we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always gotten. You know, and so sometimes you got to make a change in order to get some new things. Now, whatever that is, hey, that's on you, right? I mean, it is hard to get out of your comfort zone. It's hard to do some different things, but that's what's necessary sometimes, you know?
So it's so crazy, right? You know, as a, you know, I'm like anyone else, I put on pants one leg at a time. And, you know, my dad was my mentor role model he's the bar I set myself up to follow and also to try to beat a little bit, right? We had this, my dad and I always had a little bit of push. When you get my son, you got to beat me, right? You know, like that young lion, old lion thing, right? So I'm still chasing his accomplishments, right? And he's done so much. But I remember like as a kid, I walked into his office one day, he had all these plaques on his walls. He was the second black city councilman in San Antonio. He was the third or fourth black person graduating from med school in Texas. He was, you know, he did a lot. He was the first for many things here in San Antonio and like nationwide. He was a huge, huge deal, which I never knew as a kid. But when I saw these plaques, I'm like, Dad, I'll never ever do this thing. It's like, son, you got your own path, man. You know, don't follow me. You know, follow your dreams and make your own path. You'll have your own thing. Just do that.
Yeah.
Be the best you, right? And so anyone out there who has these ideas, you're not competing against anyone but yourself, right? The future you, what you could be. And not just for you, but for the people behind you, right? We have to blaze forward these trails to make sure that someone else can come behind me, right? Because maybe I may not be the president, but this guy may be, right? The guy I touch may be the guy who saves a life or does this one thing. And I believe, like, I have this mentality about ripples, or the ripple effect, right? If you do good for one person, that good can help them. But you may one day have that person do something else, right? A life you save, if it's me, or the person you give money to who's homeless, the person you give encouragement to. Like I feel like one day, and it's nice to envision that one day when we're judged, you know, at the altar seat, you know, God, you know, talks to us or whoever your deity is who talks to you and says, hey, this is your life. And you're like, man, I didn't do enough or whatever I did. Well, look what you did. And you'll see these people you touched and, man, did I do that? Yeah. You didn't do this, man, but you helped him, him. That thing you said one day, that patient stopped drinking, right? You know, that one dude who was, you know, on the podcast heard that stuff and he started doing this and helped this. So there's ripple effects to what you do. And if we just do the right thing positively and try to inspire, we can do a lot of change.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why we do the show. Yeah, that's why we do this week in, week out, every Tuesday. Folks got to know that we're always going to be at the table. We're always going to have the cameras on. The mics are going to be on. And we're going to be, you know, again, carving that path, moving the needle forward, pushing people to be better. You know, one of the things that we've always stayed true to at this particular table is not resorting to, you know, tropes or caricatures or, you know, stereotypes or chisme and pushing negative stereotypes and, you know, pushing things that are not who we really are. Yeah. You know, we want to be authentic. We want to have these critical conversations. We want to have, you know, progressive people come on here and push the envelope forward. You know, I strongly believe that people don't always get what they deserve. People will get what they demand. And you got to force some things sometimes. You got to get out there and take it by the horns because really, you know, as you mentioned, you know, nobody's going to give you anything in this world. No one's really going to give you anything. You got to go out there and earn it. And there's a lot of ways to go out there and demand it. There's a lot of ways to go out there and earn it. You got to find what works for you.
And even that too, right? Like resources, right? Let's say like, you know, like you can't help everybody, unfortunately, right? You know, unless you're the billionaire guy who has money, right? You know, but you can't help everybody, right? So if I have one ticket to get out of here, who wants it more, right? You know, if you want it enough and I tell you no, you're gonna get it, man, bro. I can't stop you, then nothing can stop you, right? So and many times for me, like I've been faced with these doors. You know, I remember a story kind of coming up when I was in school. I was at Howard and I was on 4-year ride, so I was blessed to have this 4-year scholarship. In my 4th year, my senior year, I ended up losing my scholarship. And the financial aid guy comes in and says, "Hey, son, you had to have like a 3.0 that semester. I had like a 2.9, whatever. I got a D, right? And I was a shorter class. And anyways, he told me my scholarship was gone. I told my parents, and my dad's like, "Son, you're coming home. I can't afford this. You got a twin sister. You got other people in school, and I ain't doing it." So I was told I got to go home, and I had to go tell my girlfriend, now my wife, that I was leaving. And so it was a really tough time. So we realized that that for me, I could not accept no for an answer. And so I went back on that next Monday and had my suit on with my tie on and got it too tied and went to the office of the person and kind of waited and walked them in, from the parking lot inside, right? And, "Sir, how you doing? My name is Rudyard Hilliard. I want to help you. Here's my situation." He blew me off again, and I came back in that afternoon, same suit and tie, got in, whatever, and walked out there from the parking lot, from the building parking lot. And every day he's like, "No, you can't have it," right? So day after day after day, for a few days, I was doing that, and he stopped and said, "Son, come back in and let's talk," right? No one has been this persistent ever in getting back. So I was like, "I know you want this, right? Like I'm gonna give it to you," And so like he was able to help me that last year and have it covered, right? He gave me a method to get that last year paid for and blessed me. And I think that level of like that lesson to me, I've tried to teach my kids, but also the kids who I mentor, is that you can't let the world tell you no, right? Yeah. They're gonna tell you no. They're supposed to tell you no, right? If you want it, you're that one. Be that one, right? And you'll be that one. You know?
That's powerful, man. That's something that we've talked about a lot, at this table, stuff that we've talked a lot about, at home. I hear it all the time, people getting told no, people feeling rejected, people getting, auditioning for certain things and not getting in. And I'm like, hey, what's next? What's next? What are we doing next, right? What's the next one up? Because you got to have that kind of tenacious spirit in order to get to the next level, man. And there's layers to all this work, man.
Yeah. I mean, Turner Brown, like it's almost like so I have a son now who I've been watching, waiting for him to reach like the whole like dating game, right? He's 12, so he's not really dating, but being scared to talk to girls. Remember that phase when you were scared to talk to a girl, and then that whole like, I'm gonna get dissed, and you get dissed, and your friends laugh at you, whatever, and you go, oh. So that can be hurtful, right? But you're never gonna get back in there and find the woman of your dreams if you're not out there going to meet all the ones to get you ready for it, right? And my mentality for my kids, like, you're never ready for the person you're meant for. You got to go through some stuff, learn some stuff, and you have to earn that right. And so in that dating game, you have to go and get dissed 100 times. You have to go and like learn what not to say when a girl asks you, "Am I fat? Do I look fat?" Yeah, no, right? All the mistakes you're gonna make that are horrible, right? But they teach you how to talk to the woman that you're meant for, how to respect her, how to love her, how to dance, right? Like how to hold her hand. I mean, the little things that girls like, that ends up being the combination of the skills that makes someone fall in love with you, right? It's the same thing for kids, but also for your art. Right? You have to learn how to build yourself as an artist, as a podcast person, as a doctor, lawyer. Learn how to become the you, that changes the world, you know, and that's a process. And every failure is a way to refine you, like that sharpening process of getting better and better and better. If you're going to quit and break, you're never really supposed to do it, right? Just get stronger, get harder, keep going.
Yeah. So I got to ask as well, we got about 10 minutes left in the show. What do you like to do in your spare time? Ooh. If you have any.
Sorry. Oh, there you go. Spare time. So I like, so I like Netflix. Love my family.
What are you watching on Netflix?
We're watching now Yellowstone. We're catching up on the phenomenon, right? So we're waiting for the next stuff to come out. We watched, and we'll go and watch the whole like season in like 3 days. And my wife and I, when we're both off, we'll be just be like locked down. I do that. I like building, right? So one of my things too is like building projects and pouring into things, right? And so I like new ventures, new ideas, and I love sitting down with folks and talking about their ideas and trying to make that idea go. And I you know how like Kanye has synesthesia, right? You know, the musicians can see music and stuff. I see connections. I don't know how that works, but I'll see, if you say I want to build boats, and I'll see, and in my head I see a name pop up, and then some another name, a line, kind of red line pop through, and say, okay, you need to meet this guy, and I can find 4 folks you need to meet. Yeah. And I like putting people together to say, yo, let's do this, you know. And if you do well, great. But if let me be part of it, like I can maybe help. Let's do it. But so I have a ton of projects, and I guess I never get tired of doing new things to kind of keep growing and keep making that box bigger again, right? My wife sometimes says, just stop, dude, enough. Like, let's just be home and chill. Like, no, dude, we have a mission here and a goal, and our goal isn't done yet, you know? Like, we can hang out and do nothing, but let's also make sure that we're intentional about family time and about building and about, like, connections and people. And, you know, life is so big that you can do nothing, but then you've made the smallest little ripple, you know? And to me, I want to make a big ripple enough that we change lives and change society for the better. Yeah.
What's some of that go-to feel-good music you listening to? You mentioned some of the bands earlier that you grew up on, that your father was listening to. You made me think of the Gap Band. Yeah. You made me think of the Isley Brothers. Yeah. Some of that that smoothness.
Bro, so my mood is my diversity has changed a lot. Right now I'm dealing with like more like that jazzy kind of vibe. Not like the old school jazz. All jazz is cool, but I like a guy named Tom Misch. Like him, he's dope, you know, and that like cool little chill vibe. But I like it all, man. You know, I love Common, I love Mos Def, I love old school hip hop, I love the gangster rap too in this time, you know. And it's so funny right now because stuff that the kids are hearing now, they think they're hard, and I'm like, man, you don't know NWA, those guys are hard. They said this stuff like, you know, and it's like, but I get it, right? I get it. And some of these, my generation, my kids' generation, you know, they're getting stuff, and it's not like it's all repetition, right? It's all revolving. But to me, music is there's so many different flavors of music, and I mean it's immense and it's innumerable the types of music there are. But yeah, I like R&B, hip hop, and jazz.
So what do you do to decompress for your me time, your therapeutic time? I know you're a swimmer.
Yeah. Oh, great. So I swim at Howard University, right? And this month our team was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. What? As the only African-American swim team in the country.
All right, we need somebody to Google that. Yeah. We need you to fact check it. I know it's real, but I want to see it.
Swim coach Nick Askew swam underneath me or behind me. I was a sophomore, he was a freshman, and he was like my teammate. And that dude was phenomenal. He was a tennis player and a swimmer, right? He had both sports. Now he's coaching both tennis and the swim team at Howard, and he's doing phenomenal things. They're right now working on a documentary about their role and their journey. He actually just won, and I'm so proud of him. He won. He was elected to the Hall of Fame for school, and our team, you know, was also got like awarded. But he was the main person who got awarded for all he's done as a athlete, coach, and as just a force for that swim team. So yes, swimming is great for me, dude. Love that. Shout out to Howard. Go buy it. So music. So I'm into audiobooks, right? So that's my vibe out. So I'm working. I have it paused in my ear, and I'm always trying to listen and learn and get new stuff. I like kind of self-help, growth stuff. I like stuff about, and that's why I like to be knowledgeable. I like some of the sci-fi stuff just to kind of get your mind, you know, to buzz away. Music too, man. And I'm really vibing with this Mojoe stuff these guys are doing. And I'm blessed. I feel like so lucky because they have stuff that's not released yet. It won't be released for a while, but it's out there, and as this stuff gets developed, I'm hearing it, the early versions, and hearing the the mixing and mastering, and there's so much stuff these guys have to do. Man, I'm excited.
So is it out? Can we find the Mojoe music right now?
Yeah.
So where? Give us a quick mention on where we can find Mojoe at.
So all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Well, so there's everywhere. It's called Soul Prophets Volume 1, right? And so that's the first thing, and they have some more coming. So it'll be dope.
Good.
Watch.
No, I believe you. Again, the music I heard earlier, we was vibing to it. We're going to turn some back on after the show. Folks, I want to thank you for joining us this evening at VodPod Media. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Give us a comment, give us a like, give us a share. Let us know what your favorite part of the show was. Always, we appreciate your feedback. We appreciate our viewers, our fans, our followers that have stuck with us since day one. We're getting ready to end the show, but I want to give you the opportunity for some closing words. You've been dropping a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge on us. I'm looking forward to reconnecting, listening to some of this music that you've mentioned, any referrals sent your way, man. I mean, give us some closing words to end the show. Again, always a pleasure.
Man, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Again, opportunity, and all I have is ideas, but I love your platform here. And if anything, take home from this is the fact you can do anything, right, with the right team, the right mentality, and the right energy. Find your dream in your head, focus on it, speak it out, tell folks about your dream, speak about it. I'm doing this, right? I'm doing this, right? And then start doing it, and you'll find out people will come attracted to that and start joining you as a team. And do it, man. Anything's possible.
There it is. We doing it. You doing it. I hope everyone's having a great night. Guyland's doing it. Take it home, sir. We'll catch you next week, folks, here at VodPod Media. Peace, love, and as always, thank you so much.